What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Lake Mead. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gents, made my way back out to just north of the Hemenway Marina. Now the plan for today is going to be taking the flow tube, getting back out there, see if we get lucky and get some fish. Now I do know that my flow tube videos, they're the ones that tend to not get as many views, but you guys need to understand it's still summer, it's still hot. I don't want to be hiking up and down some mountains carrying all sorts of gear and equipment. So while it's still summer and still hot, I'm going to take the tube, go out into the water and just see whether I can find any fish. Alright, ladies and gents, we made our way out onto the water. Quite windy today, that's why we're going next to the marina wall, so we're kind of shielded against the wind a bit. But because we are already outside of the marina wall, we can already start fishing. Now the idea is I'm going to be going in a bit deeper. You don't want to be up in the shallows, then I could have just stayed on the bank. I'm going to go a bit deeper, and while I'm moving deeper, thinking of trawling some lures behind me. Now because I'm using little flippers, not that fast in the water, so a lot of the lures don't actually work in the water. The little paddle tail, for instance, doesn't kick that well. There is one particular lure that I can use, that's a little rooster tail. In my opinion, a very overlooked little lure when fishing. This works for stuff like bass, it works for crappie, it works for bluegill, even channel catfish, and of course stripers also go for it. So the general idea is I'm going to drag this behind me while I'm making my way out. So while we're just hanging about, not doing much at the moment, let's quickly talk about our little month-long competition. Alright, so throughout the month of August there will be 4 videos, and all 4 of these videos I will be asking a question. You need to answer down in the comments these questions in all 4 videos. That gains you an entry into the competition. Up for grabs are some Amazon gift vouchers and maybe a fishing session with me, I don't know yet. So the question for today is going to be quite simple. It's just, do you prefer using baits, or do you like using lures, or are you like me doing a mixture of the two, using lures and baits depending on what fish you're trying to find? So go down in the comments and tell me, do you like fishing with lures, like fishing with bait, like fishing with both? Why am I not so certain about the fishing session? That's just because I don't want any of my followers or viewers to get sick. You know, I don't want to put people at risk. But maybe that's just me being silly. You guys also go down in the comments and tell me whether you think it's worth it to maybe go fishing with me. So why did I decide to use a little rooster tail inline spinner to trawl behind me? Well, quite simply, rooster tails are designed to actually spin whether they are moving fast or slow, and because I'm moving rather slow in the water, that's a great little lure to drag behind me to see whether we can get any fish to commit to it. Of course, this little rooster tail is just one of a couple of lures that I'll be throwing out there today. We're also going to have some anchovies in the water. Right, so once again I'm anchored next to the little tires, but I want to know how deep it is where we are at. And looking at our little fish finder thing, I'm seeing that below me it's 7 meters. That's only something like 22, 23 feet, so it's not that deep where I'm at the moment, but hopefully there will be some fish around these waters. I'm not seeing anything on a little fish finder, but I do see a little rock symbol. That just means that we have hard rock below us. So I'm thinking of maybe leaving this in the water so we can see if any fish approach me. Our little fish finder is showing some fish down on the bottom. So maybe some catfish or carp swimming below me. So I think if we start getting bait in the water, might be a good idea. Got some anchovies down in the water. I'm still going to be throwing around my little inline spinner, see if there's maybe some smaller fish around. But I will swap to some different lures a bit later on. Alright, so we almost lost our little rod, almost ripped right out of the little float, but we have our first fish on. This is on the anchovies. once again, we start off the day with little channel catfish. This one is one of the smaller channel catfish. But we're on the board with the fish. Get him on the lip grips. So we got a little catfish hooked nice in the corner of the mouth. Always good to see if they're hooked nice, then it's easy to set them free. You know it's a little channel catfish because of the forked tail and the little dots. All over the body we have these little dots. No other catfish have dots, only channel catfish. But of course as they grow bigger, those dots get far harder to see, and sometimes you can't see them at all. Let's get this guy back to the water. First little fish for today. Let's hope he calls some of his friends and we can get some more fish. And off he goes, just swam into my foot. It's always good when finding fish rather quickly. This was now half an hour since I started fishing and we finally got a fish. My entire line is filled with slime, so of course we're going to have to check to see whether the line is damaged or whether it's just some catfish slime on the line. Feels to be good, so we can just rebait, get it back down there. Got the rod rebaited, just this one on this side. The weird thing about that was that small catfish almost ripped the entire rod in. It's almost as if that take was a lot more violent than some of the bigger fish I've seen before. So it's hard to actually catch the hook set and everything on camera, because before I even can turn on the camera I already need to set the hook or else it will spit the baits. Alright, so if there's one thing I want to figure out is where do bass go, especially late in summer. Most people will tell you that bass tend to go for either structure or into deeper water, and I want to try and figure out where these fish go. So I'm going to be throwing around quite a lot of different lures, trying to see if I can find any largemouth, smallmouth or striped bass, especially fishing next to these tires, and try and see if the fish are in cover or whether they're out into deeper water, trying to figure out where to try and find these fish. So got all sorts of bait imitations, going to throw them around. Let's see if we get anything. Seeing quite a lot of carp jumping in this area, but to do carp fishing off this little float, that will be very weird, especially seeing as how I'm constantly moving up and down. You don't want your carp baits to be moving quite a lot. It's fine with something like little anchovies in water if they're moving, but you want your carp baits to be quite still. So trying to fish out here in the deep for carp, you're going to have to cast all the way out here. I'm not going to be able to do that off of a little float. Alright, we have another fish on. Feels a bit better than the first one. All the head shaking, I think might be a bit bigger catfish. I haven't seen the fish yet. Putting up a decent fight. And indeed, bigger catfish. Catfish have been kind to us lately. Not getting any other fish, but at least the catfish are still willing to bite. Alright, so decent big channel catfish. This one has some weight to him, also full belly. Not going to measure him or anything like that. You can still see the little spots on this one. We also had this one hooked in the corner of his mouth, but the hook was in there quite good. Had to use little forceps to get him out. But let's get this fish some oxygen. Nice bigger size catfish. Better to. It's nice to get a bit bigger one, but let's release him. He looks good to go. And off he goes. Alright, so that's now our second little channel catfish. I hope the wind isn't too bad. We weren't expecting this much wind, but we'll make do. Alright, so I moved spots. I'm now at the end of our little tires here. The deepest part where I still have some tires to latch onto. Now, in this particular area, it's only 1 meter deeper. That means 3 feet. So still not very deep, but a little bit deeper. I've been throwing around all sorts of lures. Even had this where I could punch in between the little tires, shake it around, see if maybe there's any bass. But I've not seen any sign of any of the 3 bass species yet. You can see carp jumping, we know of the catfish, but I haven't seen any stripers or even largemouth around. So I'm still going to swap out to different lures and keep trying. Alright, so a bit of an update. Right next to this little tires here, I actually managed to hook a bass on one of the little robo worms while drop shotting that. Well, I say hook, I got a hit. You could see the fish swimming away with my lure, set the hook, but didn't get that fish. He also stole the little robo worm. And because of that, I've now been throwing around some of these lures for far too long, so I think it's time I swap out to some different lures. Alright, so I moved a bit shallower and threw out some anchovies to bait the area. It seemed to have got the fish all riled up again. Got another fish on, don't know what yet. Again, think it's a channel catfish, the way that it's fighting. And indeed, another channel catfish. Not getting any stripers today with the anchovies, but at least these channel catfish are willing to go for my old anchovies. They're no longer staying quite well, they're disintegrating, but at least we're still getting some catfish. This catfish is being a bit miserable. He keeps splashing. You guys. Hopefully you guys are clean and can see him. Hook is again nice in the corner of the mouth. Again, lots of slime. Just want to get him some oxygen. Third little channel cat for today. Another smaller one, but nice to catch something at least. Lovely little golden dots on him. Let's get him back to the water. And off he goes. It's a bit difficult with the catfish and the lip gripper. They have some padded small teeth that tends to get stuck on the little lip gripper. So I have to violently shake them to get them off, and that way we're not getting a good proper release on them on the camera. But these fish are fine, they're swimming straight back down. Alright, ladies and gents, monsoon fishing here in Vegas means wind, clouds and some rain. Now, I do hope that the little microphone shielded most of the wind. At least I tried. And as far as the fishing goes, I was hoping for something a bit more than just some catfish. But there's even a lot you can learn from not catching a certain type of fish. Now, I did lose one little bass, but to be honest, I haven't seen any activity from smallmouth, largemouth or stripers. And next to these tires there are little 2-inch bass swimming around, and if they're out there in 21 to 26 feet worth of water, that means there's no predators around chasing them. So I really do think when the experts say that these bass move into deeper waters during the summer months, they really do mean deeper waters. And that's the trick here with Lake Mead. If the water level's lowering, you need to find those deep holes accessible from the bank. But that's all we're going to do out there today. I want to remind you to answer the questions all for the videos, to enter into the competition, and also go down in the comments and tell me, what do you guys think about going fishing? Now, I kind of made it sound like I got some kind of disease or something. I don't, but I don't want to risk any of you guys getting sick or something. For me, that would be the worst case scenario, having one of my viewers get sick or something because of me. But if you think it's worth the risk, go down in the comments and tell me. Feel free to ask any questions down there in the comments as well. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button, joining my community, and please do give me a little thumbs up on the video for at least catching some catfish out there. Alright guys, but that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank you for following me out here, and like always, I'll see you next time.